47 minutes.
Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to Join Jen. Yay, I'm Jen, your host. Tonight we are going to have a very special guest. We're going to do a amazing Centrav training. So, Centrav is a vendor we can use to purchase flights. I know a lot of people say they cannot make commissions off flights, but through Centrav you can. Okay. So, this is how we're going to walk you through on booking flights. Now, we do have a flight guru on our amazing team. And he loves Centrav. He books through it all the time and his domestic and international flights. And he's going to walk us through everything. So yes, thank you so much, Ben Selly, for taking your time and doing this training for us. It's so much appreciative.
Well, what an intro. I mean, how do you even follow that? But let me just begin by saying, one, not a guru, but more like a nerd about planes. Two, for those of you who attended the team meeting on Wednesday, would like to all congratulate again Ed for being the winner of the month or the agent of the month. But for those who are wondering, he was not the first man or male to hold that position. So we won't get into too many details, but just want to let you know there's been some discrepancies. Uh, congratulations, Ed.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
You're welcome. All right. So, oh my goodness, I keep forgetting that the camera's on. Can't scratch the head or pick my nose. For all of you who are wondering, and if you did attend the boot camp we had a couple weeks ago, I can't remember how long ago was that, Jen? 2 weeks?
I think it was like 2 weeks ago.
Two Saturday, yeah,
I think
something.
it was, yeah, 2 or 3 Saturdays ago, something like that.
I did a very brief run through about the opportunity and option to use something like Centrav, and that's what I just want to clarify today. This is not really so much of a training, but more so just a kind of intro in a more specific way to kind of give you an idea of what it's all about, why we have it, why we should use it, in my opinion, and how it can benefit you and your agency as far as making some extra money on the side. Uh, I'll show you a couple things as we go through this, but by all means, if you have questions at any point, just go ahead and type them in the chatty box or whatever. Jen's going to be looking at them. I will not. So if you raise your hand or do anything specific, uh, she will be the one to catch that. But let's just begin. I don't know. How do we share the screen, Jen?
Hit that little green button on the bottom of your thing that says share. And I do want to tell you that already in the chat, Kelsey says hi.
Oh my goodness. Why is she on her own camera?
No, Ashley's on.
Oh,
See that little green
so
arrow down at the bottom?
yes.
Okay,
Thanks,
that's
you
what she's
guys. I
doing.
know I'm technologically somewhat there. Let's see. Does this work? Does it? Can you see that screen?
Yep, I
Yeah.
can see it.
Awesome. Well, you guys, in case you don't know what Centrav is, the Centrav is a consolidator company that offers just flights, only flights. And actually, just to kind of recap, it was created by travel agents to make it easier because, again, if you aren't familiar with the whole airline industry, especially for booking, there is a GDS system that is required training and mostly it involves corporate travel. That's where it began. So there are companies like WorldSpan, Apollo, and so forth. And you can spend thousands of dollars to actually take their courses and be trained, or use something like Centrav, which is really just an easy tool for travel agents to kind of find flights that are available at a consolidated rate. Now, what consolidated means is it means basically this is not available to the general public. So what you see on just a general Google search or something, the rates here are less because they're in bulk rate with regards to the number that they allot for the travel industry, but at a lower fare. Plus, a consolidated rate offers the opportunity to actually add commission into that rate of whatever the flight fare is.
Oops, Ben. Hold on, I muted you. Sorry. So you need to unmute. Wait. I just unmuted you for like 2 seconds.
Hi, I'm Ben.
Okay, you're good. We got the
No, where did I
consolidated. So where you came from at the consolidated part.
consolidated part? That was like 2 minutes ago, or
Well, just keep going.
I was just saying, for example, if you have a consolidated fare that says it's $300 and it would normally show with the taxes and so forth at the end how much the fare is when you show it to your client, they would actually build it in if you, for example, added $50 or 75 or 100 to it. So it wouldn't reflect a separate line as like a service fee. It would actually show up as $375 if it was $75 as a fare rate. So that means to your client, it would reflect something as if it was a ticket price as is without making them question what are these additional fees. Now, most of you should be or have the opportunity to charge your clients, whether it's for international or domestic flights, a fee if you want. And that can be built in separately, however you want to bill it, whether it's on Square, pay you separately under the table. I don't know. But it's more of an opportunity for you to just kind of build it in specifically to the fare without getting too crazy and having to explain each line by line. That said, what is also available on Centrav is obviously a published rate, which is pretty much what anyone can do on any search online. NDC, which is a new distribution channel, or some restricted rates. But at the end of the day, the whole point of the consolidated fare is an opportunity to get something for a lower rate and you doing the markup, which is your profit, uh, at pretty much whatever you want it to be as long as it's within reason. They do give you a specific, and I'll show you in a second, cap as to how much it is before if you go over the amount you add for your fee, it would then show as a separate charge. Um, with regard to that, as I mentioned, there's NDC fare, published fare. Those you can add too. You can add a service fee line, but that would happen to be a separate line. So no matter what it is, it'll show as a service fee in addition to the fare that's already displayed. So I know I'm talking about a lot of stuff without giving you an example yet. So with that in mind, I just want to kind of reiterate, Centrav is a consolidated opportunity of consolidated fares, sorry, uh, to give and distribute at a lower rate, potentially, while making money on your end. So no matter what, like I said, whether it's a consolidated fare, it's an NDC fare, published rate, or restricted fare, you have the opportunity to actually make money with Centrav because Centrav only does flights. Now, Centrav is comprised of 50 different airline contracts across the globe, international as well as domestic. So it's not every airline, but it is an opportunity to kind of get a good idea of what the industry rate is if you were looking for a flight, whether it be tomorrow or next week or several months from now. And they do plot it out for quite a few months out. You can do it up to, I believe, just under a year with regards to an overall fare availability, but certain airlines like Southwest only show an X amount of months, like, was it 5 or 6 months? Jen, do you know how much, how far you can see ahead on a Southwest flight ticket for anyone?
Uh,
I know it's less.
Southwest is like 6 months, and then any of the other airlines are 330 days.
Yeah. But all that aside, you can find a consolidated rate fare like I did the other day, 8 months out, and it's significantly less, which will surprise some people. But for those who are worried about their clients doing their own quote unquote homework or saying they already looked at fares, this is an opportunity to kind of be a step ahead and offer something that they might not be seeing if it is a consolidated fare. Um, while at the same time making it look like you know what you're talking about when it comes to just booking flights, because booking flights pretty much is a huge part of pretty much every travel um, thing that we put together. And here's an opportunity to, whether or not you are familiar with airlines, whether you're familiar with airports, the coding, and all that jazz, all that, sorry, um, for you to actually get a lot more accustomed to it and sound like you know what you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, Centrav offers so much in one place that I think a lot of people who are kind of concerned about what they offer, here's a chance. And so I'm going to go through this right now, but Centrav.com is the obvious name and website. You do have to sign up. Now, if you aren't registered yet, it's totally fine because we're going to go through this together today. But once you are registered, you registered your agency. It takes about 1 or 2 days. Correct me if I'm wrong. Who has done it recently and it took longer than that to get accepted? I think it is pretty soon. Anyone?
I think it's fairly fast. I don't
Yeah.
think it's done like, yeah, maybe a day or two.
Yeah, it's
I
not too far.
registered this morning and had my email that I was all set up by about 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Holy
It was
cow.
pretty
Okay.
quick.
That's even faster than I thought. Or maybe it depends on where you are, but in the timing. Because a lot of people who have been concerned about just booking flights, whether it's on the airline's website or through a package deal, is what support do you get? I think one of the reasons why Centrav is not technically one of the preferred partners of Archer, which by the way is what we are associating ourselves with when we get paid out with the commissions and or whatever service fee. It is important to know that Centrav actually does have a great help desk. In fact, and I will point this out now, if, for example, you have a client who's flying somewhere and they already know that that flight's going to be delayed and they're going to miss the connection, before the client even gets to that, first stop for the connection, Centrav is going to alert you via email, hey, there's going to be an issue potentially. Here are your options. So before your clients even know what their options are, most likely you will actually have an email option so that you can, when they land, present to them, this is what we can do, or alternatively book you on another flight. And so, though they aren't 24/7 with regards to speaking to someone, because it's pretty much weekdays, and I believe some parts of Saturday. Ifang, you might know this, right? They don't do 24/7 if you call. I think it's,
No, they're
I
not.
shouldn't, they're not.
No.
That was Ifang, everyone. Say hello, Ifang. Um,
Hello, Ben.
no, not to me.
I
This is for
know.
you.
Hello, everyone. I think they are open
Anywho,
only until 5 o'clock Central Time.
but if you have a question or an inquiry, they do respond really quickly. In fact, you will still get an email to say, hey, we got your thing. And someone will reach out to you. And usually it's much faster than you anticipate because for the sake of wondering if you get a support, Centrav actually has a great one. And I've experienced it several times already, both for international and domestic. And I'll vouch for the fact that they're so on top of it. It's surprising that they are not a preferred partner with regards to, even though it's not 24 hours, a call service, you can get a lot done and change your fares or tickets without even talking to someone because they make it easy for you. Now, the first thing to understand when you sign up for Centrav is that they do have this great training program, which though it sounds crazy, but right here on the screen, learn how to book air. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. If you can't find this, then maybe we should be doing another field. I don't know. It is pretty obvious, and I think that's why this was created by travel agents to make it easy peasy for you guys because there are a lot of buttons to click, but it's not too crazy when you look at it as long as you understand what you're looking at. So once you are registered, um, as far as your agency with Centrav, then you get to have to register for a student registration once again, as you see here on this screen. And it's the Centrav Academy. And I can't remember how many courses it is because I'm not going to do it again. I already did it a while ago, but it is so worth your time. Not only is it easy and hopefully self-explanatory, but pretty simple, you actually do pick up a lot of things that I think a lot of people would just like, whoa, now that's what makes sense. That's what it means. Because they talk about terminology, they talk about how to do, specific things on the technical side as far as operating on the website, how to book, how to make changes, what ifs and what ifs and what ifs. so much of that is available. And that's why I highly suggest that if you, and when you get registered with your agency, take this training course. Martha, you said, how long did it take you? I believe, or who else took the class recently or took this
It
training?
really didn't take me very long. The modules are so short and quick, and the quizzes are easy. And I didn't do it right all at once, but you could have easily done it that way.
Absolutely. And if
I'm
anything, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I'm on the last type area of the course of the section 4, and it hasn't really taken me long. I just like her, I've been spreading it out over a few days here.
And with that, to each your own, because with any other training, you're not going to be able to most likely sit down and do it all at once. Some of you can, but you can always start back up where you left off. And they have little video clips like you see here for every module as far as what's going on, what they're talking about. And it's not so much as that you have to pass, but if they just make sure you understand what you're looking at, because a lot of this is pretty simple, but at the end of the day, it's the very basis of why booking travel, especially flights, gets a little convoluted. Because when we do talk about reaching out to customer service, regardless of the airline, not only you're waiting on hold, but you're going through steps that you might know more information than you can give to said representative. Here you have a lot of this at your fingertips that you can do on your own and answer on your own. I, though haven't taken the class, have actually gone back to the trainings to make sure I understood something specifically, especially how to operate it on Centrav's website. That being said, once you do the courses, you also have this resource uh, on here that allows you to kind of go through each course library specifically, so you don't have to take the whole course again. And also ask questions specifically that are articles like here or facts. And all of these things, I don't want to get into too much of it because I'll let you kind of explore yourself. But they make it so simple so you can find an answer really quickly. And if you have to wait, at least make the inquiry so that somebody from Centrav will get back to you to help you out. So that is pretty much the basis of this whole course thing, because it is important, I think, for everyone who does sign up, take this course. It's worth your time. And honestly, it will help you not only get, again, like I said, a good understanding of what the airline industry is all about, but also how to make some money while booking just flights. Because more often than not, most of us have probably been asked, hey, so you're a travel agent, can you book me a whatever? Yeah, it might not be the lowest rate per se, but at the end of the day, you have opportunity to book it yourself. Plus, there is travel protection available that you can choose. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Yes, when you check out, which I'll go through one of those options when I show you in a second. But it is important to know that even if you don't choose that travel protection or whatever that's available here, you could always go back to the tin leg, the preferred. Correct me, right, Jen? Tin leg is the only one for archery.
Tin leg is the preferred one for Archer, but there are other ones you can use.
Yeah. And that's very easy. You could just take this whole thing once you have the book in.
In tin leg, you earn 17% commissions with it.
Is it really 17%?
It is 17%. That was a Kahoot question.
Yes, 17% for whatever they paid. Okay. Not the amount of the coverage.
Right.
Just to get that right.
Yep. And they do have good plans and policies. I know that you can't speak on their behalfs, but I've read them and looked at them and sold them. They do have good policies.
Yeah, I just finally looked at it myself recently, and they just give quite a variety too.
Yes,
so it's not
they
like
do.
one or two. It's like, oh my goodness, whatever that color means.
Yep.
Just a couple things before we go into what these tabs here at the top are. Also below on the main page here at centrav.com, they're also very much on the updates as far as what's going on in the airline industry, specific airlines or overall. And these are always changing, and it's kind of great to familiarize yourself with this, because for myself, who's a total plane nerd, when I get those emails in the morning, whether it's from Travel Week or Pulse or whatever, I look at the airline news And this is kind of reflects that because there's so much that's ever changing, especially post-pandemic, about the airline industry. And I'm pretty sure most of you understand whether it's change fees, cancellation policies, what certain airlines allow, what certain airlines don't. Centrav has all that here and then some, and it's really updated consistently. And I've been impressed by the fact that they sometimes know more information that you would actually see published on a news feed, just because this is all they do. Only flights, both international and domestic. And it also includes information about, partnerships like Star Alliance, One World, and SkyTeam, plus other partnerships where you could get mile accreditation on with airlines that you might have never known. So a lot of that information just will come to you. Obviously, the basis here is to understand how to book stuff, but also too to start getting a feel for what is everyone talking about and what does that mean when it comes up, especially with your client when they say, "Hey, so I have my American Airlines miles. Can I put that in here?" Yes. By the way, everybody, and I'll show you this too, will have the opportunity if they have a signed up mile account that is affiliated with the program, they can put it in here along with all their information, including their pre-check and TSA, blah, 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 and a bunch of other stuff. So it's not like it's only just the basic information, but there's so much here at your fingertips to see. But starting off, I think the biggest thing is obviously we're here to book flights, make some money, right? So let's just take an example. And right here on the homepage, like I said, the top, you have the search, which is the basic thing, nothing too complicated. And if you notice here, it automatically clicks on these two, publish and consolidator. These fares are specific because obviously this is what they do. So you have a price comparison, as well as this option for cruise and student. Now, whether or not it actually pertains to your client, if your client is going on a cruise, by clicking that, it will show you the best option on opportunities to kind of, if your client is cruising in 2 days, what would be the best suggestion from their end as to how to get there early to make sure that they're on a boat. It's not in time with a specific cruise, but more so kind of a buffer so that people understand what are your best scenarios should something happen, whether it's the weather or something else. But it's kind of great to have. Plus, they have incentives for discounts if it is related to specific partners that they have. And I won't go into that now because it doesn't always apply. But if you have a client who's going for a cruise, might as well click that and then see how that could apply. And if there is any discounts that would benefit you further or them for the overall price. Also, obviously, there's the option to make sure whether it's a nonstop or excluding it on a basic economy fare. Now, I just want to clarify because one of the things that not necessarily irks me, but the difference between, does anyone know what the difference between nonstop and direct flight means? Anyone can just shout it out if you do. I'll take silence as an answer too. Jen,
Does
do you know what
direct mean that it'll
Charlotte?
stop but you don't change planes?
Sorry, one more time.
Does direct mean that it stops but you don't change planes?
It could, yes. So you're right, almost there. There's a part of it that actually it just adds a little more. The difference between nonstop and direct is that the technical flight number, if for example you're on United Flight 22 going from Chicago to New York, JFK, for whatever reason it needs to stop somewhere, that would be constituted as a direct flight because even if you don't change planes, that flight number maintains on it. So it'd be flight 22 even with a stop, if that makes any sense. A non-stop means it's not stopping at all. Obviously, it's going to maintain that same flight number. Plus, it won't confuse anyone further because sometimes when people say, "Oh, I got a direct flight," but then they realize after the fact that there is a stop. Though it doesn't change the plane or the flight number, it's a direct flight, not a nonstop. And I only say it because sometimes that can kind of throw people off. I had a neighbor the other day. She's like, "Oh, I found a direct flight," trying to beat me on the pricing. And she didn't even realize that it included a stop. I'm like, girl. So the understanding here is it just helps you get familiarized with what is specifically the terminology definition as opposed to just a assumed point, because all these things will check yourself before you wreck yourself kind of thing in a good way so that you don't have to wonder if you did it correctly or wrong. So like I said, you can choose nonstop. You can exclude basic fare economy, which I'll show you that in a minute because there's an option for that. Um, but also, it really just gives you even more advanced option if you specifically need to, which is choose an airline, maximize your connection time, which I think a lot of people just go for the cheapest. But if you have a client who needs to make somewhere on time, then put in the time frame that you have for the connection option. If it's not a nonstop is not available, it's too expensive. Because this way you are in control of what you're seeing without having to, you know, pilfer through all the crap. Also, like I said, there's options for the alliance partnerships and all these things, even those flexible dates, which you'd think you'd kind of get too used to when you're kind of searching on your own. These actually give you a chance to kind of nip it all in the butt from the beginning and make sure that you're looking for the right thing without having to go through so much. Because more often than not, it's going to price it up as the cheapest fare and options for the fastest. And but just to kind of give you the point of what we're looking at here and why, Centrav was created. Let's just take, I don't know, somebody give me two major cities that we're going to use as an example today.
New
Don't be
York,
shy. Okay. And
Boston,
did you say? Okay, let's do two international cities.
Munich.
Okay, New York and Munich. So, and just to clarify, in case you didn't know this, New York area airports include JFK, LaGuardia, which primarily is more domestic other than Canadian flights, and then EWR, which is on the Newark side, which is also the hub for United. By the way, JFK is a hub for American and Delta and JetBlue. But my point is, knowing that you can just put for something like New York, if you're just open to whichever airport, depending on the proximity to the airport, just instead of obviously whether it's JFK, obviously you'll have this option to show that, or smartly so, if there are multiple airports, NYC, all area airports. And that's the thing. For example, the same thing applies to places like Tokyo, which has two major airports. Instead of putting NRT or HND, you'd put TYO, which is short for the Tokyo overall airport system. So you see all the flight options going from either one. In this case, NYC is going to show you for all three airports. But again, like I said, it's most likely going to be either the EWR or JFK because LaGuardia is primarily domestic. That being said, we're going to go to Munich. Does anyone know the Munich code offhand?
MUN.
Close.
MUN.
MUC.
Yeah, I
You
got
have
it.
just,
God,
yes.
I hate when you do that because I always fucking get it.
Language patrol. This is being recorded. Ed, you get stripped of your month title of the month for not knowing the correct airport code, but we're going to let it slide today. Let's see. Today is the 3rd. And let's say they have to go on Tuesday the 15th and come back on the 30th. So almost 2 weeks. Does anyone know offhand what airline that they could get on for a non-stop flight?
Delta.
Anyone? That's one. There's several
Delta.
options.
Lufthansa.
Lufthansa, German Airways. And, well, that's beside the point, because in time you'll get an understanding of that. I'm always saying that because I'm such a nerd for knowing who goes where. But if we're going to do a nonstop, which will make it easier so you don't have to go through all the stuff. Like I said, you can exclude basic economy fare option, which is, again, in case you don't know, this is the most basic fare category. And basically where you would have to pay for every little bits and pieces that, if you're not carrying a lot of stuff, it's up to you. But you can choose this because this way you're not seeing more fares than necessary. And I'm going to choose it just so that we don't look at it. And no specific airline, and just for those dates. And this is the fun part. Did someone just message? Jen, are you paying attention?
Yes, I'm paying attention.
Good gracious. So,
Jen is in La La Land.
yeah. Well, so here we are. This is what's kind of giving you the best options. And notably, what does the two here at the top give you? Does anyone know what Lufthansa and United have in common?
They're partner airlines.
They're alliance members. Yes, they are
Yeah.
partners, but it's it's an alliance partnership,
Mhm.
meaning they are part of the one of the three, which is in this case Star Alliance. And that's a big deal. And it means that because they are both flying, that they have more options and that the prices might not be as high as it could be if it was just one airline. So that's something to think about. More than likely, you know, United, which is only flies now out of the EWR side and LaGuardia, it would be United for the ones out of Newark and then Lufthansa out of JFK. But there's also, like I mentioned, two lines here specifically. If there's not a NDC fare, it won't show it. If there's not a restricted fare, they won't show it. But here we are, commissionable or consolidated. Um, and though the green is highlighting commissionable, that is the amount that you would make if just that. You can still add to that as a separate line, like I mentioned, but $10.95 is what you would get in profit from that commissionable fare. If you add additional service fee like $200 because you just want to and your client won't know any better, knock yourself out. But the consolidated fare, though it prices out higher, it will actually show you the option to make it benefit you. And I'll show you in a second here, because everything that's priced out or listed will mention what it is, whether it's commissionable or so forth. And if you go down until you get to a consolidated fare, which either you could click it at the top and get there faster. I thought it'd be faster. Oh, for Pete's sake, here we are. This one here is on United, and it is out of Newark. Now, it's going to be confusing at first, but it shows you cash at $1,939 and or credit card. Now, what does that mean? If you have a certain payment setup that allows cash payment that has already been accepted, Archer does not, so you can't use this one. You'd have to use the credit card price. That is an option, but that's primarily for those of you who have an individual corporation and have already set up a banking system so that it automatically would register as a cash sale as opposed to an actual credit card. But in this case, like I said, since we're going through Archer as a host agency, it would be the credit card price, less than whatever the cash amount would be. It's not a huge amount, and if someone's nickel and diming, yeah, it could make a difference. But this is the cash price, and there's the price if you had to use a credit card, which is going to be everybody with us here today. The total price for this allows, why is this not doing? Well, I'm going to choose this regardless and say that we chose this one because it's going to give you an idea of why and how to make some money on a consolidated fare. This whole we are confirming this fare for you is actually the point where they're going to kind of generate and make sure that that fare locks. And you have an opportunity to actually put in the information, one for your client, but also what potentially, if you need to hold it, because what they will do, they'll hold it usually till midnight of that day. In this case, 11:55. So now if it's so far out, you would technically have some time. So it's not like it's going to change significantly unless it's a holiday fare. Um, but this gives you a chance to make sure you have this kind of on hold once you put in all the information, because once you do lock this fare, you'll get an email saying we've confirmed this. And that basically means you don't have to pay for it right away, but you can actually just lock it in as if you would be doing with any airline. So any airline, you get a ticket and you have a confirmed flight, but it's not paid for, you'll get a printout or a copy emailed to you that you can share with your client that actually shows information, including their record locator that is generated by the airline through Centrav, which is important to know because the difference between holding a reservation here is almost like you would do as if you were a representative for the airline yourself, because this kind of gives you even more power to show that you know what you're doing, one, but also that you can actually hold a ticket. And whether or not you have to change it or totally cancel it out later, this is a chance for you to say, hey, I got your ticket on hold. Do you want this before we move forward? And that's kind of where, understanding the airline industry is important because we know that fares change every time. But if you're looking for a fare that was a great price, but you know that there's not a lot of seats available, at least hold it for at least the rest of that day into midnight, because this way it will hold that seat basically for your client or clients until the moment they're able to pay and they'll agree that they're going to do it. Because if you don't, then you're just kind of in limbo and hoping and guessing you have to restart your whole search again all over. Any questions so far? Because I know I'm going through a lot of stuff and I don't want to get too wordy, but I just want to make sure we understand how we got to where we are as far as this page.
I have
Any
a question.
questions?
I do.
Who's okay?
Liz.
Hi, Liz.
Hi. So I have played around with Centrav, and when I look at domestic flights, I don't get the fare matrix that shows a commissionable price. But when I look at international, like we are tonight, then I can see the commissionable price.
Right. So,
What's the difference?
and it's not necessarily that they don't have them, because what is the inventory that Centrav has is primarily consolidated rate fares plus commissionable fares or published fares. It is the domestic ones that are less with regards to making money for both you as well as Centrav or whomever else. Because the domestic flights are, one, obviously cheaper, but two, because there's so many airlines that fly the same route, most likely, it's not going to show something that is already priced as low as it can go. Now, it's where you get into the international flights, especially, and you can pair both together. And there's something I'll get to a little bit later. It is important to understand that what you see could be for just that day. But if you also change it by a day and they're flexible in their plans, you might then see that published fare or the commissionable fare. Does that make sense? Because they do it on the algorithms of the system as to what, the industry standard is, which is what is currently available. And that's what I was talking about GDS earlier, because the GDS system that is still used highlights fares just as is, but also availability of the fare. In this case, we're now looking at a platform that shows all that information, but in more detail. Because on the GDS system, it's like either first business, coach, or premium economy. Here you get more information as to not only is a bag included and all this stuff, as far as, all the details of aircraft size and so forth. This is the domestic fares. There's so many airlines that have the same route that you're most likely already seeing it if you just did a Google search. So, like I said, it would fluctuate depending on the day. But it does show more with regard to an international flight because that's where the fares come down more for someone that's looking for a flight, whether it's sooner or later. But that's also part of the consolidated process. They have these certain number of seats available, and so they can discount them at a lower rate for you to mark up technically at the end of the day.
Okay.
But yeah, it really depends. But it's not like it won't be one, but it's kind of more, you'll see it on the international flights.
Okay,
Now,
perfect.
keep in mind, with the airlines that are included, and I'm not going to list them all right now, they do offer Southwest, they offer JetBlue here, but they don't offer every discount carrier like Avelo or Frontier, I don't think, or Spirit, some Spirit ones. But my point there is when you don't see the airline represented that you know that they fly on, it's because they're not one, got kind of contract with them, but most likely two, it's so cheap already that they won't even bother with that because it's not even necessary for them to showcase something that the airline themselves is already holding at a price that no one else can match. So when that happens, and you do have, you know, someone who's going, example, international, but they have to connect to an international airport, my suggestion would be not only just go to the airline's website and or book it separately for the domestic segment and then the international segment. And I kind of told this to several people already. That's the part that makes it confusing because though some low cost carriers are shown here, not all of them are. It's when you add that domestic point that will either shoot your price through the roof, if you put it all together, domestic flight plus international, or the option of just doing a separate domestic flight for the round trip from their home port to the international airport and back whenever it is, and then the international segment. And that's where you will see the opportunity to make more money and also a lower fare. Does that make sense? It's because the international part is the key in a lot of this. If you have an international connected to a domestic flight, and there's not a lot of options for the domestic flight from that point, the initial airport to the international airport, I would suggest book those two separately because whatever option they do price out, it will be significantly higher when as opposed to doing it two separate ones. And yeah, it might sound like a lot more work, but it could mean thousands of dollars, literally, of difference, depending on class of service, time of week, and also seasonality. Um, Gosh, there's so much here that I forgot that I'd probably be
I
talking
do
about.
have a question in the chat, Ben. Can you check a
Oh,
box that says you're flexible for the dates of travel to see different fare rates?
yeah, from the very get-go, and we can go back to fares. Because the flexibility is under the search bar here. Flexible dates, one day before. Does that make sense? Or on the return. So you can see that because it will primarily just focus on what it is that you're looking for and the dates that you give, unless you specifically highlight one of these. And then you kind of see the window. This is not going to show you window. Some airlines website or even some third-party things like even, I don't know, whatever sites are out there will show you, hey, if you're willing to fly this day, it's going to be this price. They won't show you that from the get-go, but you can have the opportunity to do that. It just makes it a lot more crap to sort through, especially if you're just wanting to get to the price and find out what the best options are. Because at the end of the day, yes, it's going to be price first and foremost, but then probably a very close second is timing. Do you want to spend more time on the layover, but willing to pay less, or for a couple hundred more dollars, suck it up and then get there faster? But it's up to you and your client. And I think that's a huge discussion because, yeah, people want the lowest fare, no matter whether it's in business, premium economy, or first. It's where you really have to understand your client better and knowing what their budget is and the parameters are. Because if they have a history of being very picky, most likely they're not going to be wanting to be too much wiggle room. They just want what they expect. And more often than not, will pay for it if it is the only thing available, as long as you present them the options. Because here you can show them options, but that's where it comes down to what is it that you discuss with your client? Because you can show them the cheapest fare, but then all of a sudden you realize, oh, they're willing to pay this much, but you did not get that from the get-go. But that's part of the whole thing as becoming a travel agent, I think, is not only do you have to kind of pre-qualify your client, you need to really understand what really does that budget mean, especially when it comes to the airfare. Because more often than not, two people are trying to, oh, if I use my miles, da, 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 da. And by the way, you cannot apply mileage here to use, but you can get credit with regards to a voucher as long as you have the ticket number on. That's a whole nother story. That's on the training. I'll let you figure that out yourself. But my point is, people are going to say, oh, I found a spare somewhere else cheaper. That might be the case, but look at all the points of it. How many connections? And does it guarantee, check bag? Do they have a layover longer than this and this? Because no matter what, people do want the lower rate. But if you present them the options of someone, especially who knows what they want, and you need to get from point A to B on these dates exactly, this is going to be your best bet. And Centrav really highlights that and breaks it down. You can totally have a window of craziness in front of you and say, look, all these options. Or let's cut to the chase. You don't want to wait long. You want to get there fast. You hate being on a plane and you can't stand this airline. Well, you pretty much covered everything you need to know. They are not necessarily picky, but they are very specific. So why beat around the bush when you can get them there? And at the price you have and show them the options that are available, they can choose from that and or make that decision for them. But that's where you become a little more, educated yourself to understand what it is you're looking at and what to kind of find without bothering them too much with information that you just, at the end of the day, they're going to throw back in your face and say, you know what? Yeah, I don't need that information. Um, my gosh, have I been talking this long? I'm so sorry. Jen,
Ben,
we haven't even gotten too far. I think this is a part where I think people get the gist of how to book, right? And how to get to the point of what their options are going to look like.
how long
Because,
how long does it take to add the commissions on it? Or do you want to
oh,
do that?
you mean as in just choose one?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, let me just show you that right now because I think that's important. Yeah, you're right. Because I could actually talk about this for another 5 hours, but who has time for that?
You
10
are
minutes,
such
10
a
minutes,
flight. Go ahead,
10
Ben.
minutes.
What'd you say?
10 more minutes.
10 more minutes? Okay,
Yeah,
so
you're
let's
good.
just,
You have 10 more minutes left.
okay, so we are saying this commissionable fare of 1,000. That looks great. Ugh, I hate this. The only way they show you an example is to pretend I'm going to put a booking in. Hi, my name is Ben. So date of birth, 1999. Whatever, that's not true. I'm male. My travelers are oh, unless your client is specifically picky, this automatically will share your information, said client, with the airline that you're booking with. So unless for whatever weird reason, I was not born in 1888, so obviously that's not true. We're just gonna go with this. Oh, for Pete's sake, what I miss? Oh yeah, 1-900-544-666. Then we'll dot com. Did I fill out all the necessary information? Let's see. Oh, I can't make up a date. Here we go. It's not realistic. So that's another thing. They catch you on these little things, which obviously you're going to be more detailed than I am right now. But the important thing is they will make sure that you do all the necessary things to make sure it's a legit person, obviously. And we are booking this fare for you um, once you've entered all that information. Okay, so now you see your booking has been reserved, which means that seat is holding, not the necessary seat choice, but a seat in that flight category and fare. So all the information for your flight is here. You have a chance to and add your frequent flyer number and other stuff. Here's, like I said, this is a commissionable fare. So the price is 1,646.11. Your profit is 1095. Whoop-de-doo, right? Because at the end of the day, how much work was that? Probably more than 1095. Now, a commissionable fare, like I said, will show up as a separate line. But if you are charging a service fee, this is a great way to put it in. It's like, hey, it's going to be built into your price, and you'll see it on there. Unless it's a consolidated fare where you can put it in the main fare, and it only shows as one. But in this case, let's just say your commissionable service fee is $50. Automatically, it'll bump everything up, but it will show a total profit of $60.95. It's a $10.95 of the automatic commission plus your fee, which again, this total of $60.95 will show separately on a separate line on their bill, not necessarily a separate charge, but a separate line as to how. Yeah, actually, it is a separate charge. That's a good question. But now you see where we're at. And I think most of you get how we get to this point. You can choose to actually pay for this with your client's credit card. Granted, you get the credit card authorization form signed and all that fun stuff yourself, or send them a link, which I don't know what you guys are more comfortable with. I like to do it myself, make sure I put in information right, and then I also contact them furthermore, because waiting for them to find that email link, especially people who are not as savvy online, can be more headache. You also have a chance to do a flexible card payment, which you choose your battles here. But I think at the end of the day, it's more of a do you kind of thing. I would suggest probably charging yourself if you have the card information.
So I have a question. Back on that other screen, where it said your service fee, did you say we can add our own commissions to that too? And then they still pay Archer and Archer pays us the 80%, or what is the service fee?
Well, the service fee is, okay, let's clarify. The commission, like I said, that's already built in for commissionable fare is $10.95, right? If you do charge a client a service fee of $50, you can minus that so it equals exactly $50 because it's still going to show up on their end as far as a charge line as a service fee. But your commission technically would be $10.95. You're just adding, what is it, 38, on your math, 05 to it to make $50 if you want it to be exactly $50.
Are you
But
saying
the
the
service
customer is seeing this?
Yes, on a commissionable fare, yes. Commissionable NDC and published fare. The consolidated fare is where they won't see it, but that's where you can clarify with them, hey, I do charge a service fee. This is how much it is. But that's also where you have to be clear with them. The airline or, the booking company that we use, a portal, also has a fee, and it's how much you can say it's $10.95, and that's why it's $60.95. But it will show as $60.95 separate from the fare of $1,696.11. Does that make sense? It's only the consolidated fare that you can, quote unquote, hide it. But
Okay,
it's with these.
So this is where we do our research as agents, where we would go to united.com to book this flight to see how much it costs. And if it costs, what's our price now? $1,700. And if United says it's $1,900, we can add $100. Kind of like the same.
Yeah, pretty much. But I think before that, also set the standard as far as what your agency or yourself would charge for any booking just a flight, whether it's domestic and or international. Because with that, you can use that as a buffer as to why there's an additional line on the fee charge. Because whatever they see is whatever you've chosen and or the code of the class fare, which in this case is a commissionable fare. So the commission, yes, it's not going to show up as commission on their end if you just left it at 0 and $10.95. It'll come up as a service fee on their end through the same portal for this. And what that's going to show you here is, like we said, does that make sense, Jen? Did I answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that made sense.
Does this apply?
Hold on. Who's first?
Oh, sorry. So this apply for domestic, international, any type of flight, or just the adding a
Yeah, any
service
type of
charge?
flight.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, it is applies domestic, international, combination of both, whether it's including that. So yeah, again, it's only the consolidated fare for everything, and it will list it out like it shows if it's a consolidated fare. If it's commissionable, expect a separate line. If it's an NDC fare and you charge a fee, expect a separate line. If it's a published fare, expect a separate line.
Just to clarify, even if it is consolidator, if there is a note there that said maximum markup, for example, $200, and if you go beyond that $200, then whatever the difference, that's still gonna shows.
Yes. And that also adds on to that a 3.5% service fee on the website of Centrav, whatever they use, because they use this portal Pay for My Trip, which is a secure system that either, again, you can send a link on this choice or text or enter it yourself directly. But yes, as Ivan was saying, and I did mention it earlier, there is a cap on the technical amount of markup on a consolidated fare. The difference there is that you can go so much to that and just charge up whatever that is, and then say there's additional fee and then add to it, and that's what it would be if it goes over that amount. But everything that's underneath that cap would just be built into the fare of the actual, what they end up seeing as one charge. I know it's a little confusing because we're not going to go through that step at the moment because I don't want to spend too much time on this, but that's what they will explain on each of the steps, especially on training here, because there's so many what if scenarios, and it's all very pertinent to specifically the individual as well as the fare code, kind of, all these factors that you not kind of control, but you can kind of forecast as to what to expect. And this gets you really thinking how to price things out, understand what you're looking at fare wise, but also how to tell your client this is why this is costing what. And whatever they see online as a super discounted fare comes with all these red tape and all these things that they didn't realize that they were paying for less, but now have to pay way more because they got the basic rate fare. This will explain it better than I am right now, but I think just to kind of give you an understanding to get to this point, you've already chosen your fare. You've selected exactly what it is that you're willing to either mark up or put on as a commission for yourself. And now you have a chance to either send them the payment link, whether it's a text or email, or put information yourself via Pay for My Trip, which then, by the way, you have a chance to disclose to them how you want it to show. In this case, because again, with Archer already, you have three options. P4FT.com is a website or the portal for the payment system, but it's either air booking fee, air and a record locator, or Archer Travel. And by the way, and I think I showed this the other day on the boot camp, on your personal profile here, once you're logged in and set everything up, you can actually put in the airline or your company's logo at the very top so that it legitimizes it even further. Something that really showcases what exactly that your agency is involved with, but who Archer is, as far as that's how you explain the whole host system. But this is how it would read as far as payments on their credit card. One of these three options that you choose. Anyone have questions on this part? Of course, you would have to click all these boxes to get to this thing if you're putting it in for yourself or on behalf of the clients, and then either send this link or enter the credit card yourself. And again, it's the same three options, but this case, you will just doing it yourself and then just send them the receipt. I would say have it emailed to yourself first, like you do on something like Vax, so that you can kind of make sure you got all the information correct, but also make sure you know what you're sending them at the end without kind of sending it too soon. It won't show you, quote unquote, your markup or commission or service fee, because you have free options here as well when you go into this, um, to actually download different versions of the same receipt that has certain information, including how much each line they're costing them, and or just the basic information for the flight without any prices. And that's what's great too, because sometimes your client doesn't need to get confused with all these numbers, as opposed to just where are they going, when is their flight leave, and where do they have to be at with the record locator of the airline that they've chosen. Because the receipt obviously will come to them, one, in the email form, but also two, you've already told them how much it's going to cost. So it's not even about that anymore. It's about the information that once it's booked, that you're going to be sharing with them. And because of that, it's like you've done all this stuff that they don't have to worry about. And I haven't even gotten to this whole part about how to make a change, because that is part of the steps that you can learn about here on this courses. But this at least gives you some sort of understanding as to so many different what if scenarios that you can do to benefit yourself, but also educate yourself at the same time about how the airline industry works, but also in real time what's available. That more often than not, a lot of clients will not understand and or see, because a lot of these fares are not put out in the public space. Well, that was way more than I thought.
So a question just came up. The 6099 or the 6095 of our commissions, okay, or the 1095, Efung just answered it, but Archer will take 80% of the entire amount of the commissions, not just the 1095, not just what you add on, the entire amount.
Yeah, correct. Whatever is it 10, how much do they take?
So it's pretty much all or the same. So you will receive 80% from whatever the total amount, the commission amount. And yeah, the 20%, yeah, that's the one that goes to Archer and your mentor.
Yeah, 80, 10, 10.
Correct.
But as confused, whatever that means to some people, especially if you're just beginning, this is a chance to at least make some money as opposed to no money. Because when I first started, Jen and some other people, you had to book the Rakuten, and that was the craziest process ever to book this flights. Now
don't book through Rakuten.
Don't book the Rakuten.
Although his training on our website is amazing. Like the video itself is amazing, but don't book the Rakuten.
It is a lot. But okay, this is my bookings as of recently. So you see, I use this a lot. This is the one currently that I have on hold that I just booked and held. But you can go back, and for whether it's a flight that has been used or ticketed or still in process of being done, you can view and change at any point. And they will explain it further with regards to the training as to what each is. But like, for example, this is the example one, right? I'm going to eventually cancel this, but you have all these options here where you can make another booking like this if you're doing it for another passenger. If you want to make a change to it, there's so many things here. I don't want to get too lost in this whole process, but here's also a chance for what receipt type would you like? Traveler quote, credit card price, or the agent receipt, which is exactly what you're going to be getting and everything detailed on that level. And this is always going to be in your, profile. But all this information is so easy, when I say easy, right there. But it is something that will make sense once you start taking the training, because again, at the end of the day, it will explain a lot, but it's about understanding so much of what is a lot of jargon to some people, but a necessary part of what we do as travel agents. You need to know this information to a degree. You might as well do it and make some money while you're doing it. And here's a chance and a platform created by people like yourself to make it as easy as possible, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm going to cancel this one because this is just so whack. But it is something that there was a lot that here, more than I'm going to show you today. but at least this gives you an idea of how, something can be done to make it look not only, like I said, like you know what you're talking about, but that you have a better understanding of how to present it to your client. Because no matter what, it's up to you to make it seem, not make it, but to educate yourself about process. And this is one of the steps, booking flights, that though you might not want to know, you should know. It will only benefit you in the long run. Does that help? Make sense? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thanks for the info, Ben.
Jen, we're already longer than necessary, but anyone have any broad overall questions, I think? Because again, I could go much longer, and I don't mind explaining further in detail one-on-one if anyone wants that. But until you take the training, I think it's necessary. Your questions will be answered, or at least the majority. How to do certain steps in some things, tricks to get around things, I can help with those later. But I think until you get to the point of taking those classes or the Centrav Academy, just do what that is and then figure out if you still need to learn more.
Can we, yep, you can. Can we reach out to you if if we have questions after we take the training? Yes, you can.
Absolutely. For only $75 unlimited for an hour.
Carrie, who's your direct mentor?
Andy is.
Andy. Okay, yeah. Just reach out to Andy, or reach out to Ben or I, however. We're on Discord. Or tag me, or reach out to Andy, and then Andy can reach out to me, and then I'll get a hold of Ben. We'll
Oh my
figure it
gosh,
out.
I don't mind if you send me an email. Just shoot me an email. Anyone else has done that, or find me on Facebook. I will respond if I don't think you're some wackadoodle. Just say, hey, I'm a travel agent. Okay, with Archer. Don't say with Voya or some other company.
Thanks for all you do, Ed.
Ed, his name's Ben.
I saw Ed's comment. I saw Ed's comment, so I said, "Oh, Ben."
Well, you're welcome, Richard.
Ed, didn't someone get mistaken you and I this morning?
Since I'm a wackadoo.
All right, love you, bro.
Oh my God.
Love you, Tyler.
I love that. I love that Ben said wackadoodle.
I know.
Good night, John boy.
Okay, so we're still recording.
Everyone's saying goodbye. Like, oh.
All right, well, I am going to end this recording. Thank you so much, Ben, and everybody on here. And that was a huge training because we don't get much Centrav trainings. So this was huge. And it's another way for you to earn income as well. So, yes, thank you so much, Ben, for your time. And join Jen. All right.